History often labels the incredible as impossible. For generations, countless artifacts from the ancient world were dismissed by experts as hoaxes, misdated curiosities, or proof of alien intervention. This journey explores how modern science has returned to these objects with new tools and fresh eyes, revealing sophisticated technologies we never knew our ancestors possessed. By the end, you will gain a new framework for understanding human innovation, one where the past is far more clever than we ever gave it credit for. How did a 2,000-year-old bronze device predict solar eclipses? What secret allows a 1,600-year-old iron pillar to stand rust-free in the rain? The real story is not about lost civilizations from beyond the stars, but about the remarkable ingenuity that was always right here on Earth. Are we ready to let go of our own assumptions about what ancient people could achieve? The ocean floor near the Greek island of Antikythera held a secret for over 2,000 years. In 1901, sponge divers stumbled upon a Roman-era shipwreck, a treasure trove of statues and artifacts. Among the recovered items was a lump of heavily corroded bronze, about the size of a large book. It was so encrusted and decayed that for decades it was catalogued as a curiosity, perhaps a navigational instrument or a piece of an astrolabe. To the scholars of the early 20th century, its true nature seemed impossible. Nothing of such mechanical complexity was known from the ancient world. It was, they assumed, a medieval clock that had somehow fallen into the older wreck, an anachronism out of place and time. This unassuming artifact, now known as the Antikythera Mechanism, refused to be so easily dismissed. The breakthrough came when researchers began to peer inside the corrosion using advanced imaging techniques like X-ray tomography. Layer by layer, they revealed a stunning internal architecture. Inside were more than 30 precisely cut bronze gear wheels arranged in a complex clockwork system. This was not a simple tool. It was a sophisticated analog computer, a mechanical model of the heavens. By turning a hand crank on the side, an operator could calculate the positions of the sun and moon, predict lunar and solar eclipses years in advance, and even track the irregular motions of planets known at the time. The device displayed this information on dials on its front and back, correlating celestial cycles with the timing of athletic games like the Olympics. The precision of its engineering is what truly reshapes our understanding. The gear trains incorporated subtle mathematical ratios, like the 127 to 254 tooth gear that accurately modeled the moon's variable motion in the sky. This level of mechanical sophistication, dating to around the 2nd century before the Common Era, suggests a previously unknown tradition of high craftsmanship and scientific thought in the Hellenistic world. The Antikythera Mechanism stands as a powerful testament. It proves that the conceptual leap from abstract mathematics to physical computation was made not in the Renaissance but in antiquity. It forces us to ask a profound question. If this one device survived the ravages of saltwater and time, how many other marvels of ancient engineering were lost, leaving only whispers in historical texts we once dismissed as fantasy? This single discovery redefined the ceiling of ancient technology, revealing a world capable of building not just temples but thinking machines. That same challenge of interpretation haunts a collection of far simpler objects. In the ruins of a Parthian village near modern Baghdad, excavations in the 1930s uncovered several peculiar clay jars. Each was about the size of a fist, sealed with asphalt and containing a rolled copper sheet cylinder. Inside that cylinder was an iron rod. They were catalogued as mundane storage vessels for precious scrolls and largely forgotten, their true purpose seemingly lost to time. Yet their design sparked a revolutionary and fiercely debated idea decades later. A German archaeologist named Wilhelm Koenig, examining the artifacts in the 1940s, proposed something extraordinary. If these jars were filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or fermented grape juice, the copper and iron would react with the electrolyte. This simple chemical reaction would create a fundamental phenomenon, a flow of electrons from one metal to the other. In essence, these humble pots could become primitive batteries, capable of generating a small but measurable electrical charge. The implications of this hypothesis sent ripples through the archaeological community. If correct, it meant a form of electrochemistry was understood and utilized nearly 2,000 years ago, centuries before its official discovery in the modern era. Proponents of the battery theory suggest several plausible applications. One compelling idea points to electroplating, the process of using electricity to coat one metal with a thin layer of another. Artisans of the period were masters of gilding, applying gold leaf to silver objects. Could a series of these cells have provided the gentle current needed for a more efficient, adherent plating process? Another theory ventures into the realm of ritual and experience. The mild shock produced by such a battery, perhaps amplified by connecting several jars together, might have been used in religious ceremonies. Imagine a priest holding a sacred statue that tingled with a mysterious, invisible force, a tangible manifestation of divine power for worshippers. It transforms the object from a tool into a theater of sensation, designed to inspire awe. Skeptics, however, urge caution, highlighting the frustrating absence of any written manual or clear context for the jars. They propose alternative, non-electrical uses. Could they have been simple storage containers for sacred materials, with the asphalt seal protecting the contents? Perhaps the iron rod was merely a wrapped scroll holder, the corrosion of centuries misleading our modern eyes. The central dilemma is this: without a contemporary description or a clear example of the technology in use, we are left to infer function from form. The Baghdad batteries, as they are popularly known, exist in that tantalizing space between revolutionary discovery and intriguing coincidence. They force us to confront a critical question in the study of ancient tech. When we find an artifact whose design aligns with a modern principle, are we seeing genuine ancestral knowledge, or are we projecting our own understanding onto a past that operated by a completely different logic? The debate itself is a testament to their power. These quiet clay jars, whether ancient batteries or something else entirely, hold a charge strong enough to challenge our timeline of invention. While some ancient technologies remain shrouded in debate, others stand defiantly in plain sight. Along the coastlines of the Mediterranean, massive harbors and breakwaters built by Roman engineers 2,000 years ago still withstand the relentless pounding of the sea. Compare this to many modern concrete marine structures, which often show significant deterioration within just 50 years, requiring constant and costly repair. This stark contrast presents a profound engineering puzzle. How did Roman concrete not only endure, but actually grow stronger with centuries of exposure to seawater, while our own superior formulas seem to weaken? For a long time, the recipe was simply lost, a victim of the empire's decline. Modern scientists, armed with advanced microscopes and chemical analysis, have finally cracked the code, and the answer lies in a brilliant, reactive chemistry our ancestors mastered by accident. The Romans used a specific blend of lime, volcanic ash from the region of Pozzuoli, and chunks of volcanic rock. This volcanic ash, called pozzolana, was the magic ingredient. When mixed with lime and water, it creates a binder that is fundamentally different from modern Portland cement. But the real secret was unlocked by the sea itself. Researchers analyzing cores from Roman maritime structures discovered something astonishing. Seawater, which corrodes modern concrete, percolated through the Roman material and triggered a long-term chemical reaction. Over decades and centuries, the seawater dissolved components of the volcanic ash and lime, allowing rare, plate-like minerals to crystallize within the concrete's pores. One of these minerals, called aluminous tobamorite, is exceptionally strong and stable. Its growth actually reinforces the material, filling cracks and voids from within. In essence, Roman concrete is not a static, inert block. It is a dynamic, living material. Every wave that washes against it, every mineral-rich seep of seawater, doesn't cause damage. It fuels a slow process of self-repair and strengthening. This is the ultimate irony. The very element we spend billions to protect our structures from was the Romans' secret ingredient for immortality. Today, material scientists are in a race to reverse engineer this ancient wisdom. The goal is to create a new generation of concrete that mimics this self-healing process, potentially revolutionizing how we build our own coastal cities and infrastructure for an era of rising seas. The Roman harbor is more than a ruin. It is a working laboratory, a 2,000-year-old lesson in building in harmony with the environment rather than fighting against it. Fire that clings to water and defies attempts to put it out sounds like a weapon from myth. For the Byzantine Empire, it was a terrifying reality and their most closely guarded secret. Known to history as Greek fire, this incendiary substance was the ultimate naval weapon of its era, a technological advantage so decisive it protected Constantinople for centuries. Historical accounts from besieged enemies describe a liquid flame launched from tubes mounted on ships or the city walls. It did not just burn, it flowed across the surface of the sea, setting enemy fleets ablaze and creating a psychological weapon of unmatched dread. The very nature of water, the universal tool for stopping a fire, became useless against it, with some texts even suggesting it burned more fiercely when doused. For generations, scholars dismissed these reports as exaggerated folklore or primitive chemistry amplified by fear. How could a medieval society produce such a controlled, persistent incendiary? The truth is, Greek fire was not magic but a pinnacle of lost chemical engineering. Its exact formula was a state secret, known only to a select few artisans and the imperial family. So effective was this secrecy that the knowledge vanished entirely after the empire's fall, leaving behind only descriptions of its terrifying effects. Modern research, piecing together clues from historical texts, points to a plausible and brilliant recipe. The base was likely naphtha, a crude form of petroleum that could be skimmed from natural surface seeps in the region. This provided a liquid fuel that was lighter than water and would float, creating that signature burning sea. But the true genius may have been in the additives. Historians note that quicklime, a common material, could have been mixed in. Quicklime has a fascinating property. It reacts violently with water, generating intense heat. This could have served a dual purpose, helping to ignite the mixture on contact with the sea, and perhaps even explaining those accounts of water intensifying the flames. The delivery system was another marvel. Descriptions of a loud roar preceding the jet of fire suggest the use of pressurized bronze siphons, likely heated and pumped by bellows, projecting the stream with force and accuracy. This was not a simple fire pot thrown by hand. It was an early form of a flamethrower, requiring precise engineering and disciplined crews to operate without catastrophic mishap. The legacy of Greek fire is not just a recipe for destruction. It represents a profound understanding of chemistry and mechanics, applied under the immense pressure of survival. It was a technology born from a specific need to defend a city perpetually under threat from the sea, and its success reshaped naval warfare for generations. Its disappearance reminds us that innovation is not a constant upward line. Sometimes the most advanced knowledge of an age can vanish, leaving behind only echoes of its power and a challenge for us to unravel the science behind the legend. A blade that could slice through a falling silk scarf and yet not shatter when bent against armor was not a myth. It was a product of Damascus steel, forged primarily between the 3rd and 17th centuries by master smiths in the Islamic world. These swords became the stuff of legend, praised by crusaders who faced them and romanticized for centuries after their making ceased. Their most famous feature was a mesmerizing, watery pattern on the surface, like a frozen stream of wood grain, but this beauty was secondary to a terrifying performance. These blades possessed a seemingly impossible combination of flexibility, incredible strength, and an edge that remained lethally sharp through battle after battle. Then the knowledge to create them vanished. By the early 1800s, the formula was lost, leaving behind only the legendary blades and a mystery that modern science is only now solving. The journey of a Damascus blade began not in Syria, but in India with a material called wootz steel. This was a high-carbon steel produced in small crucibles, resulting in ingots with a characteristic pattern of carbide bands. Islamic smiths acquired these wootz ingots and through a secretive, multi-step process of careful heating, forging, and cooling, transformed them into the legendary swords. The exact techniques, the temperatures, the specific hammering rhythms, and the quenching methods were guild secrets passed down from master to apprentice. When that chain of transmission broke due to social upheaval, lost trade routes, or the simple passing of masters without students, the art died. For 200 years, metallurgists tried and failed to recreate it, often dismissing the ancient accounts as exaggeration. The breakthrough came when researchers placed slivers of genuine antique Damascus steel under powerful electron microscopes. The view at the nanoscale was breathtaking. Embedded within the steel's matrix were structures modern science had only recently discovered: carbon nanotubes and carbide nanowires. These incredibly strong, microscopic tubes and wires acted as a natural reinforcement within the metal, like a hyper-advanced composite material. The process of making wootz steel, with its specific impurities like vanadium, and the meticulous forging cycle of the smiths, had somehow encouraged the self-assembly of these nanostructures. The distinctive wavy pattern on the surface was actually a map of these microscopic carbide bands, a visible signature of the invisible strength within. This revelation is staggering. Medieval swordsmiths, working by eye and feel without any concept of atoms or molecules, were routinely producing a form of nanotechnology. They were manipulating matter at a scale 1,000 times smaller than a human hair, achieving material properties that our best modern engineering still struggles to replicate perfectly. The story of Damascus steel is a humbling lesson in the fragility of knowledge. It proves that a technology can reach a peak of sophistication and then simply fade from the world, not because it was inferior, but because the living chain of its practitioners was broken. It asks us what other peaks of human craft have been lost in the quiet gaps of history, their secrets waiting in plain sight, etched in the very metal of a legendary blade. Precision on that scale seems to defy human effort, yet it was achieved through human ingenuity alone. High in the Andes, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman stands guard over the ancient Inca capital of Cusco. Its most famous feature is a series of 3 zigzagging walls built from colossal limestone blocks. Some of these stones are monstrous, weighing well over 100 tons, the equivalent of a herd of elephants. But it is not their size that baffles observers, it is their fit. These polygonal blocks, each with multiple complex angles, interlock with each other like a 3-dimensional stone puzzle. The joints are so tight that for centuries it has been said not even a single piece of paper can slide between them. This perfection, achieved without iron tools, mortar, or even the wheel, has fueled endless speculation. with some suggesting it was the work of lost technologies or even otherworldly guidance. The truth, however, is far more impressive because it is undeniably human. Inca stonemasonry was a masterclass in patience, observation, and applied physics. They worked with what they had, abundant stone and immense collective labor. Using harder stone hammers, they would pound the surfaces of a block, not to carve it precisely, but to define its general shape. Then the real magic began with abrasives. Sand, water, and relentless grinding would slowly wear the stone down, a process of refinement that could take generations for a single wall. The key to the legendary fit was likely a method of iterative testing. Researchers suggest a block would be roughly shaped and then repeatedly lowered into the space prepared for it. With each trial, the masons would identify high spots, mark them with a colored pigment, and painstakingly grind those specific areas down before trying again. It was a monumental game of guess and check, repeated thousands of times across thousands of stones. This explains the intricate, almost organic locking shapes, each block custom fitted to its unique neighbors. The walls were not built from a master blueprint, but grew from the ground up through relentless adjustment. The purpose of this immense effort was not merely military. The zigzagging walls mirroring the lightning bolt, a symbol of the Inca sky god, and the stones themselves, believed to be imbued with living spirit, show this was sacred architecture. It was a declaration of power, yes, but also a profound act of reverence, weaving the very bones of the mountain into a structure meant to last for eternity. Sacsayhuamán is not a mystery of alien intervention, but a monument to human tenacity. It proves that with enough collective will, careful observation, and time measured not in years but in generations, even the mountain itself can be persuaded to hold together by sheer geometry. Navigating the featureless expanse of the North Atlantic was a feat that should have been impossible. For centuries, Viking longships crossed from Norway to Iceland, Greenland, and even the coast of North America, a journey of thousands of miles across some of the most treacherous seas on Earth. They did this centuries before the magnetic compass reached Europe, and under skies that were famously overcast and stormy. How did they know where to go when the sun and stars were hidden? The answer may have been a small, unassuming crystal mentioned in their sagas as the Solstein, the Sunstone. For a long time, this was dismissed as a poetic metaphor or a mythical object. Modern science has revealed it was likely a brilliant application of physics, a natural technology that turned the sky itself into a compass. The prime candidate is a transparent calcite crystal known as Icelandic spar. When you look through this crystal, you see a double image due to its property of double refraction. But its true navigational power comes from another feature, polarization. Sunlight scattered through the atmosphere becomes polarized, meaning its light waves vibrate in a specific direction relative to the sun's position, even when the sun itself is obscured by cloud or fog. A Viking navigator could hold the sunstone up to the sky and slowly rotate it. At a certain orientation, the two images seen through the crystal would appear with equal brightness, a phenomenon caused by the crystal filtering the polarized light. By finding this point of balance, the navigator could trace a line pointing directly to the sun's hidden location. With that single reference point, even just a faint glow on the horizon at dawn or dusk, they could establish the cardinal directions and hold their course. This was not guesswork, it was a repeatable scientific observation using the Earth's atmosphere as a guide. The theory moved from plausible to probable with a stunning archaeological find. In a 16th century English warship wrecked off the coast of Alderney, researchers discovered a clear piece of Icelandic spar. It was found near navigational instruments, exactly where a ship's master would have kept his most vital tools. This artifact, centuries after the Viking Age, suggests the knowledge of the Sunstone persisted among mariners who understood its priceless value. It means the Vikings were not just fearless sailors, but keen natural philosophers. They understood a hidden property of light invisible to the naked eye and harnessed it to conquer an ocean. Their greatest tool was not the longship, but the mind that knew how to read the secrets trapped inside a piece of rock, turning overcast skies into a map. The ability to sense the unseen is a power that feels almost supernatural. In the year 132, during China's Han Dynasty, a brilliant scholar and inventor named Zhang Heng presented the court with a device that claimed to do just that. It was an ornate bronze vessel, perhaps as tall as a man, decorated with 8 dragon heads gazing outward, each holding a bronze ball in its jaws. Below each dragon sat a corresponding bronze toad with its mouth open, waiting. The court officials were told this magnificent object could detect the tremors of an earthquake happening hundreds of miles away, indicating the direction from which the quake had come. For over 1,000 years in the West, accounts of this machine were dismissed as pure mythology, an elegant fable about ancient wisdom. How could a static bronze jar possibly sense a distant geological event? The answer lies not in magic, but in a beautifully simple application of physics that Zhang Heng mastered. Inside the vessel, historians and engineers now believe, hung a heavy inverted pendulum. This pendulum was delicately balanced but connected to a clever system of levers near the base of the vessel. Each lever was linked to one of the 8 dragon heads on the outside. When seismic waves from a distant earthquake finally reached the capital, they would cause the earth to shudder. The heavy bronze vessel would shift with the ground, but the inertia of the suspended pendulum inside would cause it to lag slightly behind, swinging in the opposite direction of the initial tremor. This small swing would trip one of the internal levers. That lever action would release a catch, causing the dragon head facing the earthquake's epicenter to open its jaws and drop its bronze ball with a loud clang into the mouth of the waiting toad below. The direction of the fallen ball was the warning. While this seismoscope could not measure the strength or duration of the quake like a modern seismograph, its purpose was profoundly practical. It served as an early warning system for a vast empire. A ball dropping from the Western Dragon, for instance, meant officials could immediately dispatch messengers to that region to assess damage and coordinate aid, days before traditional reports could travel by horse. The true genius of Zhang Heng's device was its sensitivity to horizontal wave motion, the primary energy released by distant quakes. It filtered out the local vibrations of carts and crowds, waiting for the specific, sustained sway that signaled true geological unrest. This was not a tool born from abstract curiosity, but from a dire need. China, then as now, was prone to devastating earthquakes, and the ability to know where one had struck was a matter of imperial responsibility and survival. The seismoscope transforms from a myth into a testament to observational genius. It shows a mind that understood the principles of inertia and leveraged well enough to build a mechanical sentinel, a silent guardian that could feel the Earth's deep whispers and turn them into a clear, actionable signal. It stands as a powerful reminder that the desire to predict the unpredictable, to build a shield against nature's chaos, is a drive that has inspired human ingenuity for nearly 2,000 years. From the quiet sentinel of a seismoscope to a canvas visible only from the sky, the scale of ancient ambition seems to know no bounds. Etched across a high, arid plateau in southern Peru, the Nazca lines present one of archaeology's most breathtaking mysteries. For miles in every direction, the desert floor is carved with hundreds of geometric lines, trapezoids, and spirals, alongside colossal depictions of a hummingbird, a spider, a monkey, and even a humanoid figure often called the astronaut. Their sheer size is incomprehensible from the ground, with some figures stretching over 600 feet long. For decades, this very fact fueled sensational theories that they were landing strips for ancient astronauts, messages for gods in the sky, or navigation aids for extraterrestrial visitors. The truth, however, requires no otherworldly explanation, only a profound appreciation for human coordination, patience, and a brilliantly simple technique. The Nazca culture flourished between 200 before the Common Era and 600 after, mastering life in one of the driest places on Earth. Their geoglyphs were not made by adding material, but by subtraction. The desert pavement here is covered in a layer of dark, oxidized stones and gravel. Beneath it lies a bed of much lighter, sandy soil. To create a line, the Nazca people simply removed the top layer of dark stones along a predetermined path, piling them carefully to the sides. The stark contrast between the exposed light earth and the surrounding dark pebbles creates the visible design. This method is permanent in the Nazca climate, where wind is minimal and rain virtually non-existent, allowing the lines to endure for 2 millennia. But how did they achieve such perfect, large-scale proportions without ever seeing the full image? The alien runway theory collapses under the weight of a far more elegant and human solution, grounded in basic surveying. Researchers have demonstrated that the Nazca artists could have begun with a small-scale model sketched on a manageable surface. To enlarge it, they would use a system of guideposts and ropes. By driving a central stake and using a fixed length of cord to maintain a constant radius, they could trace perfect circles and smooth curves. Straight lines could be created by aligning a series of stakes over long distances, a technique still used in rudimentary surveying today. To scale up a complex figure like the hummingbird, they would have broken the design into a grid of manageable sections, transferring the angles and proportions from the small model to the vast desert grid one careful segment at a time. The work was undoubtedly a massive communal effort requiring careful planning and division of labor, but not technology beyond simple tools, keen eyesight, and shared purpose. The real question then shifts from how they were made to why. While we may never know the exact meaning with certainty, the cultural context offers compelling clues. The Nazca were a people deeply connected to rituals involving water, a precious resource in the desert. Many of the lines lead to or from sources of water, and the animal figures are often associated with fertility and rain in Andean cosmology. It is likely these geoglyphs were part of a vast, sacred landscape walked upon during ceremonial processions. From the ground, a participant would see only a path of cleared stones, a ritual walkway. The full image, revealed only from the elevated foothills or perhaps in the collective mind's eye of the community, was a gift to the deities of the sky, a prayer for life-giving water made permanent on the face of the earth. They are not a message for alien pilots, but a monumental testament to human faith and collective effort, a reminder that the most awe-inspiring mysteries are often the products of countless hands working toward a shared vision, one carefully placed stone at a time. Standing silently in a courtyard in Delhi for 16 centuries, a 7-meter-tall iron pillar defies a fundamental law of nature. While modern steel structures require constant painting and maintenance to fight a relentless enemy, rust, this ancient column of wrought iron remains almost untouched by the orange corrosion that plagues our own infrastructure. Forged around the year 400 during the reign of the Gupta Empire, it is a testament to a metallurgical achievement so advanced that for generations, its survival was attributed to everything from supernatural protection to secret, lost alloys. The truth, uncovered by modern science, is more fascinating, revealing a perfect, accidental harmony between ancient craft and environmental chemistry. First, a crucial clarification: this is not stainless steel, a 20th century invention. This is pure wrought iron, hammered and forged by artisans over 1,500 years ago. So how does it resist the very process that claims iron bridges and cars in mere decades? The answer lies in a microscopic shield, a protective layer born from the unique way the iron was made. Researchers using advanced spectroscopic analysis discovered the pillar's secret: its remarkably high phosphorus content. Modern steel production meticulously removes phosphorus as an impurity because it can make steel brittle. But the ancient Indian smelting process, which used charcoal and specific iron ores, inadvertently left a significant amount of phosphorus in the final metal. This was not a flaw, it was the key to immortality. In the relatively dry climate of Delhi, this high phosphorus iron reacts slowly with oxygen and moisture in the air. Instead of forming the loose, flaky red oxide we call rust, it develops an astonishingly thin, uniform film, only about 1/50th the thickness of a human hair. This film is a compound called mesawite, a stable, glass-like layer that tightly bonds to the metal beneath it. Once formed, this passive layer acts as a perfect barrier. It prevents further oxygen and moisture from reaching the raw iron, essentially putting the corrosion process into a state of permanent arrest. The pillar, in a sense, rusted just enough to protect itself and then stopped. This was a brilliant, unplanned accident of ancient industry. The smiths who forged it were not corrosion scientists. They were masters of their craft, using materials and methods passed down through generations. They created a material whose greatest property would only reveal itself over centuries of exposure. The pillar's endurance is thus a partnership, a dialogue between human ingenuity and a specific, forgiving environment. It stands not as a mystery of lost super science, but as a monument to a beautiful coincidence where the byproducts of an ancient technique met the right atmospheric conditions to create a shield against time itself. Modern engineers now study this passive layer intensely, hoping to replicate its principles for protecting steel in bridges and ships. The ancient pillar, in its quiet defiance, continues to teach, offering lessons from the past to those building for the future. The quiet confidence of the iron pillar stands in stark contrast to another artifact, one whose meaning remains locked away, yet whose method of creation is startlingly clear. In the ruins of the Minoan palace of Phaistos on the Greek island of Crete, an Italian archaeologist made a peculiar find in 1908. Amidst broken pottery and fresco fragments, he uncovered a flat, fired clay disc, roughly the size of a small plate. Both of its faces were covered with a spiraling sequence of strange, stamped symbols, depicting everything from human heads and shields to birds and flowers. This object, known as the Phaistos Disc, did not look like anything else from the ancient world. Its uniqueness became its curse. For decades, many scholars dismissed it as an elaborate modern hoax, a clever fake planted at the dig site. How could such a sophisticated, printed object exist in Bronze Age Crete, around 1700 before the Common Era, with no other examples ever found? The authenticity debate raged for nearly a century, but advanced thermoluminescence dating has now confirmed the disk is genuinely ancient. The mystery, however, only deepened. What does it say? To this day, no one has definitively deciphered its script, but while its message remains silent, the technology used to create it speaks volumes. Look closely at the symbols. You will see slight variations in alignment and depth and occasional smudges. This is not handwriting. Each individual symbol was made by pressing a pre-carved seal, a sort of stamp, into the soft clay before it was fired. The maker had a set of these seals, each representing a different pictograph, and arranged them in a spiral sequence to compose the text. This means the Phaistos Disc represents the earliest known use of a revolutionary principle, movable-type printing. A craftsman, over 3,000 years before Johannes Gutenberg assembled his metal letters, was using a reusable set of symbolic stamps to impress a complex message onto a permanent medium. The implications are staggering. This was not a one-off artistic whim. The very existence of a set of standardized seals implies a system, a need to reproduce specific combinations of information efficiently. Was it an administrative tool, perhaps used by palace officials to stamp clay tablets for inventory or trade? or was its purpose ritual, a sacred text meant to be reproduced for ceremonies, its spiraling inward pattern symbolizing a journey or incantation? The fact that we have found only one such disc is itself a puzzle. Were the seals made of wood or another perishable material, lost to time? Did this proto-printing technology remain a closely guarded secret of the palace, its knowledge vanishing when the Minoan civilization itself declined? The disc forces us to reconsider the pace of innovation. It suggests that the conceptual leap to printing, to separating the act of writing from the act of carving each message anew, occurred not once in 15th century Germany, but independently in the brilliant seafaring culture of Bronze Age Crete. It is a fossil of a cognitive revolution, a snapshot of a moment when someone thought to break language into standardized, reusable parts. We may never know what the spiraling symbols proclaim, whether a hymn, a treaty, or a royal decree. But we can understand the genius of its making. In that quiet clay disc, we see not just an undeciphered message, but the birth of an idea, the spark of a technology that would one day transform the world, lying dormant for millennia, waiting for us to recognize its true significance. The same principle of a forgotten tool, a technology dismissed until its true function is recognized, applies to objects of stunning clarity. Deep within the ruins of Nimrud, the ancient Assyrian capital, archaeologists uncovered a collection of small, meticulously crafted discs. Made from polished rock crystal and dating to the 8th century before the Common Era, they were initially catalogued as simple decorative inlays, perhaps for furniture or ceremonial objects. They were beautiful, yes, but seemingly mundane. It was only much later, when someone thought to hold one up to the light, that a startling truth came into focus. These were not mere ornaments, they were precision-ground optical lenses. Tests confirmed their properties. With a focal length of about 12 centimeters, these ancient Assyrian lenses could magnify small objects and, when angled toward the sun, concentrate its rays into a point of intense heat capable of igniting tinder. This was a deliberate, engineered understanding of light crafted over 2,700 years ago. The immediate question is practical. What were they used for? In a civilization renowned for intricate ivory carvings and detailed seal engraving, a simple magnifying lens would have been an invaluable tool for artisans. It would have allowed them to execute work of breathtaking fineness, guiding the hand that created patterns too small for the naked eye to see clearly. This transforms the lens from a curiosity into a fundamental instrument of craft, extending human capability. Another compelling use is as a burning glass. The ability to conjure fire from the sun held profound practical and possibly ritual significance. Starting a fire quickly, without the friction of wood on wood, would have been a powerful advantage. But the most intriguing possibility pushes our understanding further. Could these lenses have been part of an early optical device? The Assyrians were keen astronomers and formidable military strategists. Some researchers have suggested that a lens, mounted in a simple tube, could have served as a rudimentary telescopic sight for surveying land or even observing distant troop movements. While evidence for a composite telescope is speculative, the existence of the lenses themselves proves the foundational knowledge was present. They understood that shaping transparent crystal in a specific curve could bend light to human will, whether to see the infinitesimally small, to harness the sun's power, or to bring the distant horizon closer. The Nimrud lenses shatter the timeline we once held for optics. They place a working understanding of magnification and focus centuries before the classical Greeks pondered the nature of light. They are a quiet, crystalline testament to a culture that saw the world not just as it was, but as it could be enlarged, illuminated, and examined through a window of their own making. Yet another artifact challenges us not with its function, but with its very language. Locked away in a vault at Yale University lies a small, peculiar book that has defied understanding for over a century. Known as the Voynich Manuscript, its 240 vellum pages are filled with botanical illustrations of plants that do not exist, astrological diagrams of unknown constellations, and page after page of text written in a script and language that no one on Earth can read. For generations, its indecipherable content fueled endless speculation, from the work of a medieval alchemist to an elaborate Renaissance hoax. While cryptographers continue to debate its meaning, a different kind of detective work has quietly provided definitive answers about its physical reality, shifting the mystery from what it says to what it truly is. The first crucial question was age. Using radiocarbon dating, researchers sampled tiny cuttings from the manuscript's vellum pages. The science was clear. The parchment was made from calfskin between the years 1404 and 1438. This placed its creation firmly in the early 15th century, decades before Columbus sailed, confirming it as a genuine artifact of the medieval world and not a later forgery. The next step was to peer into its chemistry. Using non-invasive spectroscopic techniques, scientists analyzed the vibrant inks that form its strange text and colorful illustrations. They found no anachronisms. The pigments were entirely consistent with materials available to a European scribe of that era: iron gall ink for the writing, and earthy compounds like azurite and malachite for the blues and greens. There were no modern synthetic dyes, no secret ingredients that pointed to a later fabrication. This material investigation is a powerful demonstration of how modern technology serves historical inquiry. It does not always solve the grand mystery, but it builds an unshakable foundation of fact. By authenticating the manuscript's age and materials, science has effectively separated the artifact's genuine, historical enigma from the shadow of a simple hoax. We now know without doubt that someone 500 years ago went to immense effort and expense to produce this book. They prepared the vellum, mixed the inks according to the recipes of their time, and meticulously filled every page with a system of communication meant to convey specific information. The technology of its creation is not impossible. It is entirely of its period. The impossibility lies in our own inability to access the mind behind it. The Voynich Manuscript thus becomes a different kind of ancient technology, a technology of encoded thought. It represents a complete system of information storage, a designed vessel for knowledge whose key has been lost. Its enduring power lies in this duality, a physically ordinary object that serves as a perfect container for an extraordinary intellectual void. It asks us to consider how much of the past is not lost in the collapse of empires, but in the silent fading of a single, unique way of seeing the world. That same principle of elegant, lasting design is embodied in a device so perfectly simple it has never been improved upon. The Archimedes screw is a masterclass in solving a fundamental human problem with grace. Attributed to the brilliant Greek polymath Archimedes of Syracuse, it was reportedly invented to solve a very practical crisis: removing bilge water from the hull of a large ship. The concept is breathtakingly straightforward. A screw or a helical surface is enclosed within a hollow cylinder. One end of the cylinder is placed in a pool of water at a low angle. When the screw is rotated, either by hand, animal power, or later by a motor, the water is trapped in the pockets between the screw's threads and the cylinder's wall. With each turn, these pockets of water are carried steadily upward along the spiral until they pour out the top of the cylinder. The genius lies in its fluid dynamics. Unlike a bucket that must be lifted and emptied, the screw creates a continuous, gentle flow. It requires relatively little energy input for the volume it moves, and because it is a positive displacement pump, it is remarkably efficient even with thick, muddy water or liquids carrying debris. It does not rely on suction, which can fail, but on the solid, mechanical lifting action of the rotating spiral. What began as a solution for a shipwright became one of history's most transformative agricultural tools. For irrigation, the Archimedes screw was a revelation. It allowed farmers to lift life-giving water from a river or canal into elevated fields with a reliability and simplicity unmatched by other methods. A single person could operate it, turning a crank to feed an entire plot. Its design was so perfectly suited to its task that it spread across the ancient world, from the Nile Delta to the farmlands of the Roman Empire. And here is the most astonishing fact: it is still in widespread use today, over 2,000 years later. Modern versions, often powered by electricity, move everything from water in treatment plants to grain in silos and even loose solids in industrial settings. The core principle remains unchanged. In an age of constant digital upgrades and planned obsolescence, the Archimedes screw stands as a quiet monument to a different kind of progress. It represents an engineering solution so complete, so harmonious with the physical laws it harnesses, that it achieved a form of technological perfection. It solved the problem of moving a fluid uphill so elegantly that it never needed a version 2.0. It simply worked, and it has never stopped working, a spinning helix of ancient genius that continues to lift the essential elements of life. Gold has always captivated humanity, but its softness posed a challenge for ancient artisans seeking both beauty and durability. Across the Atlantic, in the rich cultures of pre-Columbian South America, metalworkers faced a far more formidable material, one that modern industry only learned to master with advanced furnaces: platinum. With a melting point exceeding 3,200 degrees Fahrenheit, nearly double that of copper, working platinum in its pure form would have been utterly impossible with the technology available. Yet, in the coastal regions of what is now Ecuador, archaeologists have uncovered exquisite artifacts from the La Tolita culture, dating from around 600 before the Common Era, that include tiny, perfect beads made of platinum. For generations, this discovery was met with disbelief. How could a society without high-temperature forges possibly manipulate such a stubborn metal? The answer reveals a stroke of genius that bypassed the need for melting altogether. These master smiths had developed an early form of powder metallurgy. They began by gathering native platinum, which occurs in nature as small grains mixed with other minerals. These grains were painstakingly separated and then ground into a fine dust. This platinum dust was then mixed with a small amount of gold dust, which acted as a natural binding agent. The mixture was carefully shaped into a bead and subjected to a process called sintering. By heating the object in a charcoal fire at a temperature well below platinum's melting point, but high enough to soften the metals, the individual particles began to fuse together at their boundaries. The gold, with its lower melting point, would flow slightly, cementing the platinum particles into a solid, cohesive mass. The result was a workable, durable alloy bead, created without ever liquefying the primary metal. This was not a happy accident, but a deliberate, repeatable technological process, a sophisticated understanding of material behavior on a microscopic scale. It represents a completely different pathway to working with refractory metals, one that industrial science would not reinvent until the 19th century. Alongside this platinum marvel, another alloy showcases the depth of South American materials science: tumboga. This was a versatile alloy of gold and copper, prized because it could be made to look like pure, solid gold while being stronger, harder, and using far less of the precious metal. The real magic, however, happened after the object was cast. Artisans employed a chemical technique known as depletion gilding. They would treat the finished tumboga object with a natural acidic solution, likely made from fermented plant juices. The acid would selectively dissolve the copper from the very surface layer of the metal, leaving behind a porous, spongy layer of pure gold. This layer was then meticulously burnished, packed down and polished with a smooth stone. The compression closed the pores and created a seamless, brilliant gold surface, while the tough copper core remained inside, giving the piece strength. To the eye and to the touch, it was indistinguishable from a solid gold object. This process required a profound, almost intuitive grasp of electrochemistry, understanding that one metal in an alloy could be targeted and removed through a controlled reaction. Together, the sintering of platinum and the depletion gilding of tumbaga reveal a metallurgical tradition operating at the highest level of innovation. These were not just decorators, but material scientists experimenting with the very nature of substances, bending them to human will not through brute force, but through clever chemical persuasion. Their legacy is a testament to the many ways intelligence can solve a problem, proving that technological advancement is not a single, linear path, but a forest of diverse and brilliant trails. These scattered wonders from across the globe and time are not merely a list of curiosities. When we step back and view them as a whole, powerful patterns begin to emerge, revealing the common threads of ancient innovation. One of the most striking themes is the profound, intimate relationship between these inventors and the raw materials of their world. They were not just users of stone and metal, they were masterful readers of natural properties. The Viking navigator understood how a specific crystal filtered polarized light. The Roman builder knew which volcanic ash would react with seawater to create an eternal bond. The Andean smith recognized that the impurities in their ore were not flaws, but the key to a self-protecting shield. Their technologies did not conquer nature from the outside. They collaborated with it, harnessing hidden potentials through acute, generations-long observation. This deep material intelligence was then married to another universal force, human organization. The scale of achievement in projects like the Inca walls or the Nazca lines speaks to a different kind of technology, one of social engineering. It was the technology of coordinated labor, of passing a unified vision down through decades, of mobilizing a community toward a single, monumental goal. The precision came not from a laser guide, but from the accumulated patience of countless hands, each contributing to a whole they might never fully see. This brings us to the most poignant pattern of all, the fragility of knowledge. For every Antikythera mechanism that survived, how many were lost? The stories are often tales of silence. The secret of Greek fire died with the last Byzantine engineer who knew the formula. The art of forging Damascus steel faded when the chain of master and apprentice was broken. The purpose of the Phaistos Disc became mute when the language it encoded was no longer spoken. Knowledge, especially specialized craft knowledge, is a living thing. It requires a culture to sustain it, to teach it, to value it. When that culture shifts, when trade routes collapse, or when guilds dissolve, that bright thread of understanding can simply snap, leaving behind only the mysterious artifact, a question without an answer. This is the ultimate lesson woven through all these examples. The label impossible that was so often applied by later generations rarely meant the object was a fake or a fantasy. Far more often, it was a confession. It meant the technology was not yet understood by the modern observer. It meant we had lost the language, both literal and metaphorical, to comprehend the choices and the genius of the people who came before us. Our journey through these 15 technologies is, in the end, an exercise in humility. It asks us to replace our assumptions of linear progress with a recognition of peaks and valleys, of brilliant lights that flickered in specific times and places, some of which we are only now, with our own tools, learning to see again. This collection of artifacts forms a powerful counterargument to a long-held historical bias. They are not evidence of alien visitors or lost super-civilizations, but of something far more profound, the boundless ingenuity of human beings working within their own time and place. Each discovery represents a peak of specialized, empirically derived knowledge. The Roman concrete chemist did not need to understand molecular lattices to know his mix would harden in seawater. He simply observed that it did, and perfected the recipe through generations of trial. The Damascus steel smith did not know about carbon nanotubes, but he knew the precise color of the forge and the sound of the hammer that produced an unbreakable blade. Their intelligence was not lesser than ours. It was differently focused, deeply attuned to the materials and challenges immediately before them. This perspective allows us to move beyond two equally unhelpful extremes. On one side lies extreme skepticism, the automatic dismissal of anything that does not fit a narrow, modern timeline of progress. This is the mindset that labeled the Antikythera Mechanism a misplaced clock and the Baghdad jars as mere scroll holders, refusing to let the evidence speak. On the other side lies the leap to the fantastical, attributing every unexplained marvel to outside intervention, which ultimately robs our ancestors of their own genius. The middle path, the one illuminated by modern scientific archaeology, is far more respectful. It sees ancient peoples as we truly were and are intelligent, innovative problem solvers. We built seismoscopes to warn of earthquakes, sunstones to navigate trackless oceans, and printing presses to preserve thought, all driven by the universal human desires for safety, exploration, and communication. Perhaps then, the greatest mystery revealed by these 15 technologies is not about the past at all, but about ourselves. Why were we, for so long, so quick to doubt the capabilities of those who came before? The answer may lie in our own hubris, in a linear view of history that sees the present as the inevitable pinnacle of all that has come before. These artifacts shatter that illusion. They remind us that knowledge is not a straight line ascending, but a garden that blooms in patches, with some flowers fading before others are born. As we stand here with our own advanced tools, peering into the past with X-rays and spectrometers, we are finally learning to listen. And so, a final question lingers, not about ancient history, but about our own future. What artifacts from our own time, currently dismissed as hoaxes, anomalies, or impossible curiosities, will the scientists of 1,000 years from now re-examine with new eyes and new understanding? What brilliant, context-specific solutions of ours have they yet to discover? The story of human innovation is never over. It is only waiting for the next chapter to be read.